Good morning, everybody. CanadaPoly.com has private forums. Come and join the conversation. You've got to register. Once you register, you can see the forum and post and reply and join the conversation. We'd love to have you. All right, today's conversation, or today's video, is about fertility rates, birth control, and what choices were made in the 50s and 60s and how they've resonated down to now. And I want everybody to be on the same page. So this was an article posted in March by Global News, and it kind of gives the what is the birth control pill, oral contraceptive, and what are the risks involved. And I've got some comments on that because I think it's kind of wild that we have been convinced that pregnancy is something that requires a daily medication to manage, right? And I want to preface this whole video with, I'm a man and have never had a vagina or uterus or any of that plumbing. So I don't know if plumbing is the right word either. My mom always called it plumbing, so I'm not meaning any offense if you take offense at that. But I don't have any of that. So there are things that I will never know and never understand about women's biology. However, I'm basing this on news articles and the information that I have at hand. So if I'm way out to lunch, please do tell me in the comments. But otherwise, here's my opinion on all of this. But first, birth control pills, the risks and benefit of taking oral contraceptives. When the birth control pill was approved by the FDA in 1960, it launched an international revolution of women to be in power of their own sexual and reproductive decisions. Oral contraceptives are one of the most frequently used prescribed medications by Canadian women, according to StatsCan, but there are still a lot of questions surrounding them. Not only are there different types of birth control, but everyone's body can react differently when taking it. Here's everything you need to know about the pill. How do birth control pills work? Birth control pills stop your body from ovulating. The hormones in the pill prevent your egg from leaving your ovaries, meaning the sperm cannot fertilize the egg, right? If the egg's not there, the sperm can't fertilize them. Back to the article. The pill's hormones also thicken the mucus of the cervix. The thicker cervical mucus makes it hard for the sperm to swim to an egg, almost like a sticky security guard. I'm going to skip down a bit, but while I'm skipping down, I wonder why so many people are having fertility issues later on in life after maybe a decade of being on the pill, right? You're thickening your mucus for a decade, and then all of a sudden, pretty crazy. Okay, back to the article. What are the benefits of taking it? The most basic benefit when taking the pill is preventing pregnancy, but there are other advantages as well. Quote, you may experience less cramping, less bleeding, periods are more predictable, and you may notice an improvement in acne, Asid said. Asadi is the doctor. Taking the pill also decreases your risk of ovarian and endometrial cancers, she added. A study released in March 2017 by the University of Aberdeen suggests that while there is a slight risk in developing breast cancer and cervical cancers, the birth control pill might have a strong preventative effect for staving off ovarian, endometrial, and bowel cancers for up to 3 decades. Okay, what are the risks? The pill does come with some potential negative side effects. Short-term risks include spotting, breast tenderness, nausea, vomiting, bloating, but this typically stops after the first couple months of taking it. Birth control pills do not protect against STIs. Some long-term consequences include an increased risk of blood clots, particularly if you are a heavy smoker and over the age of 35, a CD said. Complications, although rare, can also include heart attack, stroke, increased blood pressure, and liver tumors. Research has linked increased risk of depression to not just the pill, but other forms of birth control such as the patch and IUD. Okay, so I'm going to interject here and say we are giving women a pill that has side effects because we have been convinced that having a career and planning a baby is more important than allowing a woman's body to ovulate normally and risk a pregnancy if she becomes sexually active. That is pregnancy itself worth medicating a child, somebody who's probably 12 to 15, right? Like I know a lot of my peers when I was 14 or 15 started going on the pill, and how many generations, how long did that take for that to become normal? And what has that done to our fertility rate? And I'll tell you, spoiler alert, it's cratered it. Okay, so I want to point out a couple of other things as well, and we're going to keep looking. We are going to get to the fertility rate numbers, but they're a little bit dry, so I want to put them into context. Okay, pregnancy warning for older women. This is posted from June 2009 from the NHS, and the NHS is the British National Health Service, and so that's why it's NHS, or maybe system. Anyway, NHS. They're reporting, quote, women should have a baby before the age of 35 or risk missing out on motherhood. This was a stark message from the Daily Mail. The newspaper said that there is concern about rising infertility rates among women who delay starting a family, and that new evidence demonstrates that it is increasingly difficult for women to become pregnant after the age of 35. It was also said that women over 35 have a higher risk of miscarriage. And I'm going to scroll down. How does aging affect the chances of conceiving? The age at which women first become mothers in the UK is continuing to rise, but as women get older, the number and quality of egg cells that are produced by the ovaries decline. About 10% of women are affected by early ovarian aging, but there's currently little that can be done to identify this condition. Infertility and difficulty in conceiving can cause great emotional distress to couples. Women should ideally be free to choose when to start a family based on personal and professional circumstances, but very little can currently be done to reverse the underlying biological factors that determine reproductive aging. So basically, the ideal age is younger, the better. The younger, the fewer complications with aging, and that's across the board, and that's well known. And I've looked at graphs, and I believe I have graphs coming up, but we'll see. I'm going to use this, and we'll be talking more about it. So birth control pills turns 50, reports the CBC. Mother's Day marked the 50th anniversary of an invention that gave women greater power to choose if and when they wanted to become a mom. How insidious is that? They released it on Mother's Day? My goodness. Okay. The approval of the birth control pill in 1960 ushered in an era that many argue transformed the lives of women, giving birth to the sexual revolution, spawning the women's liberation movement, and changing the face of a once male-dominated workforce. Right, so they're getting women into the workforce and driving down salaries, but doubling their taxes, right? Back to the article. The pill also changed forever the relationship between the sexes, by giving women the ultimate control over avoiding an unwanted pregnancy. And for the first time, popping that little tablet each day meant women could engage in sexual pleasure on a whim without the unromantic foreplay of condoms, diaphragms, or other contraceptive contraptions. Jumping down, quote, the pill seemed wonderful, says Lippman, an epidemiologist at McGill University in Montreal who specializes in women's health. At the time, abortion was illegal, and those obtained clandestinely through doctors willing to perform the procedure was usually expensive, dangerous, or both. While the U.S. had given the advent of oral contraceptions a definitive anniversary date, the story of the blockbuster pharmaceutical in Canada was a little more difficult to pin down. Okay, so they didn't release it on Mother's Day. They were just celebrating it on Mother's Day, which is just inappropriate. Okay, back to the pill and CBC. The pill comes to Canada. The pill had been available with a doctor's prescription to Canadian women as early as 1957, but only for menstrual irregularities, never, at least officially, as a means of avoiding conception. At the time, advertising or selling contraceptives could result in a fine or jail time unless it could be shown to be in the public good. In fact, the pill was illegal in Canada until 1969, when a Trudeau government bill that also legalized, quote, therapeutic abortions and homosexual acts between consenting adults was passed by Parliament. Yeah, another Trudeau. Fantastic, right? Back to the article. The whole notion of a medication that could prevent pregnancy caused a furor. Some religious groups, chief among them the Catholic Church, and other opponents contended that the pill should be banned outright, or at least restricted to married women as a means of limiting the number of children. Prescribing the oral contraceptives to young single females would lead to a breakdown in morality and rampant sexual promiscuity, they argued. I wonder if... Can't think of any examples of that. Hey? But, back to the article. A Toronto Liberal MP who vocally opposed his party's bid to legalize contraception proclaimed in 1966 that use of the pill was already emptying out hospitals and maternity wards. What we need is not birth control, but self-control, Ralph Cohen told the now-defunct Weekend magazine. Quote, if things go on this way, in 20 years we'll have so many old people, there won't be enough young people to pay for their welfare programs. Wow. Here is Ahmed Hassan saying Canada will welcome nearly 1 million new residents by 2020, but here's the part I wanted to show you. Immigration Minister Ahmed Hassan has stated the influx of immigrants in the coming years will help offset Canada's aging population, and that this historic immigration plan is the most ambitious in recent Canadian history. One of the major tenets upheld by the Liberal Party is that immigration inevitably benefits Canada and its citizens, driving innovation and strengthening the economy. And, as Hassan stated, Canada's population is aging, with nearly 5 million Canadians retiring by 2035. So, again, this is about taxes. They're saying it's about workforce. This is about taxes. They need to replace the money coming in from those high paying jobs for taxes. They don't care about us. And this is another article talking about immigration to higher immigration targets by Ahmed Hassan, and talking about the hunger for workers is huge. Yes, they need their income tax dollars, right? All of that money, 42% of the money that you make goes to income tax, and they are scrambling to replace it. And they're willing to turn us into a third world country to do it. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So they knew back in 1966 where this would lead, and liberal MPs were speaking out against it, and yet it was ignored. So here's the birth rate per 1,000 women from 1926. Here's the dip in the Great Depression, okay, and the Second World War. Right after the Second World War, that's baby boom, and this is the baby boom after the war, right? And here is 1966. The 1969 is the legalization of the birth control bill, but 1959 is when it was available by prescription. So you're seeing this in real time, right? And since then, the birth control or the fertility rate has been hovering around between 1.5 and 1.8, which is half of the Great Depression. Women don't have babies when they're not secure. Women, I don't know that choosing to have a baby later helps with the amount of babies we can have, et cetera, et cetera. And it seems to be not beneficial to the amount of babies we're having, clearly. Okay, so 1926, the amount of babies per woman was 3.36, so almost 4, right? 3 or 4. And that holds until around 1930, and then it's 2 or 3. And then in the 40s, 3 or 4. Back up, 3 or 4. And that holds to 1964, 3 or 4 babies per woman. And then in 1965, it starts to drop, and it never recovers, ever. And here's to 2011 at 1.61. And here's up to, this is breakdown by province. I just wanted to show that none of it and Northwest Territories are relatively high compared to the rest of Canada. Sorry, I was jumping around there. Okay, so this is the fertility rate per 1,000 females by age group. Okay, and I wanted to show you that the age is getting older. The age at which women are having babies is getting older by a lot. So in 1926, every 1,000 women, 28 were having babies if they were 15 to 19, and so on and so forth. So if 20 to 24, 140, right? So this is per 1,000 women. And you can watch the trend just fall off a cliff. So you see 1926, it's 28, it goes up to 30 in 1930. And then by 1940, 29, pretty stable. 1942, it goes up to, or 1947, it goes up to 42. 1950, 60. 1957, there's 60 babies. 1967, 45, drops to 24 by 1983, drops to 20, 1998, and it's at 12 by 2011. And you may say that's wonderful, right? No more unintended pregnancies for teenagers, but these pregnancies never got replaced, never happened, right? They've instead decided that Canadians no longer want to have babies, and so the way to maintain our population is to bring in migrants or immigrants, right? And to do that, they're increasing, to keep our population, quote, growing, they're increasing the number of migrants to maintain our population and to maintain the tax base, because we need those jobs to pay the taxes to keep our entitlements. Our entitlements are our healthcare, the things we pay taxes for, right? The things we expect for our taxes. And those things aren't put migrants up in hotels. Those things are roads and hospitals and schools, right? That's what we want from our taxes. But what I'm saying is more and more our taxes are going to borrowing because we're spending more and bringing in migrants to maintain this house of cards of an economy that we've got going that requires growth. And while creating this economy that requires growth, you're tanking the baby making population. You're tanking it. You're taking the best baby making years, right? And you're making it much later. And it's not healthy. And I wanted to show you, and like I've got all these graphs. It's hard to show you all of these raw numbers in this format, but if you look at the 1926 177 babies for 25 to 29-year-olds and scroll down, and it's 95 in 2011, and do it for the 30 to 34-year-olds, you've got 153, and then in 2011 it's 105, right? You're still missing a ton of babies. That's a lot of babies. And I wanted to show you the breakdown as well from 2011, well, all the way up to 2017, because we've got the data for it, from breakdown from age groups. And I want to show you, this is live births to females under 20 years of age per 100 or per 1,000 females 15 to 19, right? So we've got a birth rate of 17 babies born in 2000 to teenagers, and in 2017 we've got 7.9%. And if you compare that to the birth rates, birth numbers, it's incredible. Like I thought we were looking at a different scale. It's not a different scale. It's incredible, cratered, absolutely wild. I wanted to show you I've got oral contraceptive numbers, but it's from 2009, I believe. Yeah, 2009. And so 43% of teenagers 15 to 19 are on oral contraceptions, but only 14% of teenagers aren't using any contraceptives. So that's including a condom or something to that effect. So interesting, right? But 43% are getting the pill. Wild. That was just a slide. So I wanted to show you some advertisements for the pill. So this is an advertisement from a Toronto newspaper, I believe, or Globe and Mail maybe. And this one's from some Toronto newspaper. That's Yasmin Bleeth. And this is 1970s. But they were pushing that, like, that's right, boys, I'm on the pill. Like, look at this. This is your absolute base desire, but none of the consequences. But the consequences are this, like, are these declining rates, are the babies that never were, and in exchange for a career. And where's the career going to be when you're 65? Are they going to be standing at your bedside, the career people? You know, Toby and all of the, I don't know why I said Toby. He's the only one I could remember from The Office. But are they going to be there on your bedside? I think the lie that women have been sold, that a career is more important than a family, is the most just insidious thing that I've woken up to since starting this. It's incredible. And they're advertising it to young women to say, yeah, extend that youth. You don't need to have babies. You can have sex. Right? That's what this is saying. And it's still saying that. Here's a Globe and Mail article. When are women having babies? And how old is too old? Our Commonwealth cousins, Australia and the UK, are shedding new insights into when couples are having kids. Reports released by both countries this week confirm people are becoming first-time parents at an older age. Quote, over the last 40 years, the percentage of live births to women aged 35 and older has increased considerably, said Elizabeth McLaren, the UK's Office for National Statistics. Women over 40 are having babies more often than women under 20 in Britain for the first time in over 7 decades. The last decade has also seen fewer teen pregnancies in Canada. There were half as many babies born to Canadian teenagers in 2012 than in 1991. And we were just looking at those statistics. They're calling that a win, and I'm calling that a terrible tragedy, really. And so this is an interesting article. Link is in the description. Here's in Canada, more babies now born to women 30 and older. And this is Fact Tank News in the Numbers. And again, the link is in the description. I just thought it was an interesting thing. Quote, according to a new report by Statistics Canada, the switch happened in 2010 and widened in 2011 when there were 52.3 babies born per 1,000 women ages 35 to 39 and 45.7% per 1,000, women to ages 20 to 24. So, right? Like women are getting older because they're not stable when they're younger. The agency also reported that birth rates for women in their early 40s are now nearly as high as for teens. Wild, right? That's not normal. That's how a society dies. I wanted to show you that it's in pop culture. There's a whole bunch of divorce movies, American divorce movies, talking about how great divorce is, kind of showing how fun it is. Like, this is a Dick Van Dyke movie. I've got the trailer in the description. Link is in the description, sorry. And this Only 16 song, I remember my mom singing this song while like cleaning on a Saturday morning, like humming away and singing this song. But it's been pushed. Children, teenagers shouldn't have babies. And it's been pushed so much that it's common wisdom that babies are something that we need to medicate those women for, right? And it's wild. And I understand it. I grew up in it. A bunch of my friends all had birth control just as a matter of, they had birth control. It was the thing that teenage girls did. And if you didn't have birth control by the time you hit college, you sure did by December most of the time, as far as I knew anyway, in my circle of friends. Maybe I'm out of touch. I'm not sure. And if you weren't using birth control, like oral contraception, you were using a condom while having sex. So, and I'm not saying that we should not have safe sex. That's not my point. My point is what those choices and those campaigns did to the real birth rate in Canada was tank it. And is that what we want? Because that's part of the conversation. If that's what we want, if we want a society where women are expected to be monetarily stable enough to have a baby by themselves, and the man bears no responsibility to that because birth control, or because the people who are planning wait so long that a baby costs them $20,000 to even start for IVF, right? In vitro fertilization. So it's this terrible trade-off that we've been told is good for us. Is it good for us? I don't know. I'm not trying to make that comment, but from everything I can see, from the side effects of birth control to the potential risks of having a baby later on in life, why are we selling this to women? Why are we selling this to girls? Why are we telling them, you can be anything you want to be except a parent? Don't you dare want to be a mother, because that's not in STEM. So weird, right? Isn't this weird? The last thing I'll leave you with, because it's Christmas, I asked my wife, and we don't go to church regularly. My wife and I did not grow up in a church-going family, and it's a hard thing to break into. I've listened to Dr. Peterson's church stuff a lot, and I'm well-versed in church because I did go to church a little bit when I was a kid, but my wife did not at all. So she is very innocent with regards to what Islam is and what Christianity is, and I read about it because I'm interested in it. So I turned to her the other day and I said, do you know why the Virgin Mary and the infant child Jesus are sacred symbols in Christianity? And she was like, we were watching Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Like, she was totally taken off guard by it. So I should apologize to her, but she was like, no. And I said, because societies die otherwise. Because if the woman and the child is not the absolute pinnacle goal, then it doesn't happen, right? Like, if it's secondary or third, it's a hard thing to do. And the amazingness of it isn't self-evident at first, right? Once you have a baby, the first year is falling in love with that baby. You love that baby. There's no doubt about it. You have to protect that baby. But that first year is hard. You have to fall in love with that baby. And going to work isn't conducive to falling in love with that baby. Having to be in charge of anything other than looking after that baby is not acceptable, in my opinion. And so that's why the mother and child is central, a sacred central image to the Christian faith, because you have to propagate that. That has to be your goal. And if you want a career after that, and not has to be the goal of women, but that has to be the highest ideal, right? Just like, well, getting off into other territory now, so I'll stop while I'm ahead. But it's an interesting time to have Justin Trudeau double down on pushing girls into STEM, when the real results of having career stresses, in addition to delaying child rearing, in addition to having the sole responsibility of being financially stable and you have to have a house and you have to have this and you have to have that, or you have babies born to people who are in poverty and who can't take care of themselves in higher numbers than the people who society would say, quote, should be having babies. So it's a very fraught time. And it's even a fraught time to talk about this. I had to say at the top, I'm not meaning any insults, and I don't mean any insults. I hope nobody took anything I said as offensive. I just think it's an interesting thing. And I'll say this again, and I'll leave you with that we're selling to women when the company's, the job, the thing that you do, and you dedicate your whole early teens, late teens, early 20s, and probably into your 30s to, that's not going to pay off in your 60s or your 70s when you're old and tired and you want somebody to bring you some chips that you like in your old age home or something to that effect. And maybe that's a pessimistic look at the future, but if you don't have anybody and if you haven't propagated anybody, what's the point after 50? Right? I don't know. All right. Well, thank you for watching. Have a good day.